Welcome, welcome, welcome. You just cracked open something new. Something bold, something unfiltered. Something that pairs perfectly with whatever is in your glass right now. This is the 50 Shades of Beer podcast. The show where current events meet common sense, where headlines get roasted, where trending topics get dissected, and where opinions are served cold, straight from the tap. Because let's be honest, the world is weird right now. Every day there's a new outrage, a new expert, a new crisis, a new thing you're apparently supposed to care about immediately. And somewhere between breaking news alerts, doom scrolling, political theater, and whatever nonsense is trending this week, you just want somebody else to say what everybody else is thinking. That is what this show is. No scripts from corporate media, no carefully polished talking points, no pretending something ridiculous isn't ridiculous. Just conversation, persuasive, sarcasm when it's deserved, and occasionally a very cold beer. Because beer is honest. Beer doesn't lecture you. Beer doesn't fact check your mood. Beer just shows up, sits down, and says, all right, we're all just talking about, whatever. And that's the vibe here. Each episode, we take a look at what's happening, politics, culture, technology, internet chaos, and we break it down the way normal people do, at the table, at the bar, in a group chat that would absolutely get flagged if it were public. We're not here to tell you what to think. We're here to ask questions. Why does every story feel like a performance? Why does every debate feel staged? Why does every expert, quote unquote, suddenly disappear when they're wrong? And why does common sense feel like a conversational opinion? We'll laugh at the absurd, call out the obvious, and occasionally admit when nobody really knows what's going on, which might be most of the time, who knows, but we're asking questions and we're talking. Those are the basic ingredients of what we're trying to do. Because that's real life. And real life doesn't come with a teleprompter. Now, the name, 50 Shades of Beer, it's not just about beer. It's about perspective. There are layers to everything. Nuance, context, contradictions. You can look at the same story from 10 angles and get 10 completely different reactions. And somewhere in the middle, there's usually the truth. Or at least something closer to it than what you saw in a headline. Some episodes will be funny, some will be sharp, some will go deeper than you expected. We'll talk about media narratives, we'll talk about government decisions, tech companies shaping reality, social trends that appear overnight, and the strange way the internet turns everything into a spectacle. And yes, we'll poke fun at all sides. Nobody gets immunity from ridicule. That's the rule. If something's ridiculous, it's fair game. Because humor is just one of the last honest tools people have. It cuts through spin. It exposes contradictions. It makes complicated things understandable. And sometimes, it's the only sane reaction left. This podcast isn't about outrage. There's already plenty of that shit. It's about perspective without hysteria, conversation without scripts, and remembering that most people, despite what the internet suggests, are pretty reasonable. They're just tired of being talked at. So think of this show as a reset, a place where headlines slow down, where noise gets filtered, where you can actually sit back and say, okay, what's actually happening here? And maybe, just maybe, laugh a little while you do it. You'll hear recurring segments, hot takes that age badly, stories that vanish the next day, predictions that somehow come true, and the occasional moment where reality becomes stranger than satire. Because lately, that line is getting very thin. We'll also talk about the stuff nobody covers well, the second-order effects, the unintended consequences, the cultural shifts that happen quietly until suddenly they're everywhere. The things you'll notice but don't hear discussed. That's where the interesting conversations live. And it isn't a lecture. It's a conversation you'll be invited to. Whether you're driving, working, walking the dog, sitting on the porch, or pouring something cold after a long day, you're a part of it. Because the best discussions don't happen in studios. They happen in real life. And that's what we're going to be bringing to your headphones. So, what can you expect going forward? Consistency, honesty, curiosity, and a willingness to say, that shit doesn't make any sense, when something really doesn't make any sense. Some episodes will be fast, and some will be reflective. Some will go off on tangents, the good kind. The kind where you start talking about one story and suddenly realize it connects to 5 bigger ones. That's where insight happens. And yes, we'll talk beer. Not in a snobby way, not in a review channel way, just as part of the atmosphere. Because sharing a drink has always been shorthand for sharing ideas. It lowers the volume, raises the honesty, and makes disagreement feel human instead of hostile. That's the goal here. Disagree without dehumanizing. Laugh without dismissing. Question without assuming the worst. It sounds simple, but right now it's rare, which is exactly why this show exists. So if you're someone who watches the news and thinks, there's more to this, or if you're someone who sees trends and wonders, who decided that shit? If you're someone who appreciates satire because reality keeps trying to outdo it, then you're in the right place. This is a podcast for people who pay attention but don't panic, who question but don't spiral, who understand that the world is complicated but nonsense is still nonsense. And every week, we'll open another conversation, another story, another angle, and another shade. Because nothing is ever just one thing. That's the entire premise. 50 shades, 50 perspectives, one conversation. So here's your invitation. Subscribe, follow, share with a friend who sends you the "Did you see this?" text. Play it on the drive. Cue it up at the end of the day. And bring your perspective with you. Because the best shows aren't just listened to, they're discussed. This is the 50 Shades of Beer podcast, where headlines breathe, the opinions are honest, and the conversation is always on tap. I'm glad you're here. Now, let's talk.